Hello and welcome to this special crossover edition of Locked On Bulldogs, Locked On Auburn podcasts. I am Daniel. That's Clint.
Yeah, we got somebody else in here with us. Who let this? Who opened the front door and didn't lock it?
It's hard to say.
Yeah. Auburn folks just walk into places now. It's kind of our thing. Pumped to hang out with you guys today.
It's great.
Yeah, we're glad. This is Zach from Locked On Auburn. We got a crossover episode. We got a lot to talk about. So Daniel and I are going to keep this short and truncated. We are not gurus or insiders whatsoever. We're fans.
Zach is.
Zach is I
don't know about that. I don't know
bona fide guru and insider, I think.
That's right. We are fans first and foremost, so we're going to talk on this podcast like fans do, just like your team. So if you want rational takes, this is certainly, first of all, wrong podcast. Secondly, wrong episode. 100% all the way through. We're going to have hot takes from our fan bases. We'll be here with each other talking about that. If you want gurus or insiders, seek elsewhere. Daniel's going to let you know how to contact us here at the show.
Yeah, I mean, follow both podcasts, Locked On Auburn. You can find it wherever audio podcasts are found. Same with Locked On Bulldogs. Subscribe to those podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and review if you like the show, and tell somebody about it. And then also here on YouTube, if you're listening to the audio version of this right now, you can head on over to YouTube, search Locked On Auburn, search Locked On Bulldogs, and you can find both those shows. You can subscribe to – it's a secret. You can subscribe to both shows. That's what you can do. That's just a little insider tip. Subscribe to the shows, leave a comment, thumbs up, bell, whatever the things are that YouTube does. All right.
Look,
it's enough about that.
If you're a Georgia fan and you hate everything Auburn, you can still come over to my page and comment mean things. I don't care. It still helps. Right. So that'd be huge. Thank you.
Mean comments are welcome. Auburn fans, you already know this. You don't have to be told this.
No permission needed for Auburn fan over on our page.
No permission needed. Thank you so much. I looked, by the way, for some sports memorabilia in the background, but I could not find any. And so maybe next time. I noticed Zach doesn't have any either, but that's. Oh, look. Oh, Clint, you got some. That's a bona fide. That's a credential right there.
I got that. Well, this is a Brooks signed baseball over here. Stan Musial signed baseball over here.
Ooh.
So Brooks Robinson, Stan Musial, and then this is signed by the late great UCLA coach John Wooden basketball.
Wow.
So, how about that?
Hey, I don't know what you call sports memorabilia, but.
Wow. I mean, if it was a Bruce Pearl signed basketball, it might be worth a little bit more, but I guess that's fine if you could get it.
I don't want the FBI smoke in my house, man. I don't want that.
That's
okay. We're starting like this. Huh? That's fine.
All right.
That is okay.
Let's talk about the game. Obviously, Georgia on the road at Auburn this weekend, and so let me just kick it off, Zach. From your perspective. Coming off a huge win at LSU, first time in 100 years that Auburn has won in Baton Rouge. And so Auburn fans seem to be feeling good. You have a little bit more insight into the fan base than we do. How good are Auburn fans feeling right now?
They're feeling great. Yeah, like you said, it's been over 20 years, and it's been a pretty cool few days scene. I think the way that they did it as well, the way that they won also matters. Defense adjusted. There's been a lot of Auburn fans really kind of attacking Derek Mason with his approach to defense. And so the last 3 quarters against LSU, the defense was pretty awesome, was pretty top notch. So you got to like that. And then the way Bo Nix played, I think is definitely a big part of everything that you saw or that you wanted to see Auburn fans, get excited about. So him running around and all that, I think is cool. But what I said on Locked On Auburn earlier this week is, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. And that may work against Arkansas, and it may work against A&M and Ole Miss and Mississippi State, maybe even Alabama. I don't know if it works this weekend because I don't know if Georgia's defense is going to really let him, run around and do, really exciting stuff like that. We'll see. I think they're certainly going to try it, and maybe they'll game plan for it specifically. But I think that's why Auburn fans are so excited. Obviously, the time, but the way they beat LSU was a big deal. And obviously, Georgia's coming off of a huge win against Arkansas.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I think both teams feeling good. Georgia fans, I mean, you know this, I'm sure. But if you're an Auburn, I mean, this Georgia fans every year let me just placate to the Auburn fans for a second. Every year, Georgia thinks they're going to win the national championship. Every year, Georgia fans think they're going to win the national championship.
And y'all been wrong for a long time.
And we've been wrong for a long time. I can't even remember the exact year it was that we won it. Nobody ever tells me about it, so I can't even remember what year it was that we did win. But we have been wrong.
Comments.
That's Auburn. Yeah, tell us in the comments what year we won the national championship.
Help me out, please.
Right. If you've already typed that comment, just give it a thumbs up, and so that it'll move up towards the top.
Please.
That's right. This year feels different, and every Georgia fan will tell you this year feels different. I think the eye test will tell you this Georgia team is different than Georgia teams in the past. But I'm curious about Bo Nix. You brought up Bo Nix, and this has been, to me, a bizarro Bo Nix year because the narrative on Bo Nix, right, has always been, and Clint, we talk about this all the time, great at home, terrible on the road. Like if you get Bo Nix on the road, he's going to make really dumb decisions. He's going to throw some picks, and he's going to cost Auburn the game. Plays like lights out at home. Well, this year, Bo Nix gets benched at home against Georgia State, and then comes back on the road and has an unbelievable performance against LSU. And so my question, Zach, is from your perspective, is this a new Bo Nix? Or was this a one-game deal? Or has Bo Nix turned things around?
I think it's about finding that balance. I mean, the previous 2 seasons, he'd get in the pocket, and as soon as he get the ball, he'd leave the pocket, always kind of scrambling to his right for no reason. And then that was so much of the story all summer is, stay in the pocket and throw the football. And he was doing that, and he was doing it okay. Like you mentioned, he struggled at times against Georgia State when he got benched there, but looked good. I think he looked fine at Penn State. Was he perfect? No, but I think he did enough for Auburn to win the game there. And then at LSU, he started just running around like crazy. And I think he's just got to figure out that balance. And I still think this new coaching staff is figuring out what all they have with Bo Nix and the rest of the personnel on both sides of the football. So I think that's kind of it, is everybody's trying to figure out what the right balance of, hey, go let Bo be Bo, and also kind of got to pull him in and run the scheme the right way. So.
And that, to your point, the balance. I looked at Brian Harson's career as a head coach, Arkansas State and then Boise State. And every single year he was at those programs, Arkansas State had a very, very balanced offense. The numbers of rush yards and pass yards almost identical. Boise State, almost 100 more pass yards per game than rush at Boise State. All of a sudden this year at Auburn, it's almost identical. Is it not? 239
right down the middle
the air and 238. Is that the balance you're talking about, understanding how to play within Bo? Because I said this last year, I think the misuse of Tank was egregious to me last year. I was shocked at Auburn's inability to do that. Is that the balance you're talking about, or is it specifically the type of plays calling with Bo Nix?
Well, I meant just with Bo figuring out when he needs to leave the pocket early versus when he needs to stay in and kind of deliver a pass and kind of be calm, cool, and collected. But yeah, I mean, as far as play calling goes, that's something that Harsin talks about all the time. Is it's all about balance. And I don't think that always necessarily means, all right, 50% run, 50% pass, or 50% of the production needs to be through the air and 50% of it needs to be through the ground. I think it's going to vary from week to week, and I think it may vary from team to team. But yeah, I mean, you talk about the use of Tank Bigsby, and that's been something that Auburn fans have a really hard time understanding, because if they use Tank Bigsby a little bit more, or even Jarquez Hunter a little bit more, they beat Penn State on the road and they get a really, really big win earlier this season, but it didn't happen that way. And I expected to see a ton of that at LSU. Y'all probably did too, because LSU can't defend the run, but something doesn't look right with Tank. It seems like there's kind of, I've read a few different places it's a hip issue. I don't know if that's true or not, but looking at him, he doesn't look like he has, whether it was the end of last year before he went down against Tennessee or the start of this season. But Jarquez Hunter, he's the highest rated running back in the country per Pro Football Focus, getting kind of those number 2 reps. He has been a diamond in the rough for this Auburn coaching staff, and what they found as this 3-star from Mississippi. He's been absolutely incredible. And there's kind of a little bit of a dialogue going on within the Auburn fan base as who's the best running back on this team right now. And a lot of Auburn folks will say it's Jarquez Hunter.
That's shocking.
That's wild. I think that's the benching that people are not talking about at Auburn, because Brian Harsin was asked, wasn't he, that like if there was an injury to Tank Bigsby in his either Monday press conference or his post-game press conference to LSU, and he said, nope, he's fully present, full go. Everything was fine with him. But I think everyone assumed there was an injury because Jarquez Hunter, especially down the stretch in that LSU game, was getting the lion's share of the carries. And to your point, I mean, he's producing. Like the kid is a cannonball. Yeah. And so, he was looking good. We got more to talk about the Auburn team. And I don't know, maybe Zach wants to talk about the Georgia team, or maybe he's just resigned himself to the inevitability of this Georgia football team.
We need to talk about Demetrius Robertson more. I think we all can agree on that.
We'll ask more D-Rob questions coming up after the break.
Do I have a vote on this? Because if so, I refuse to do so. Hey, want to let you know about BetOnline.ag. BetOnline.ag is our sports book experts. Right now, you go over there and you can just get on the action. Daniel and I will be back on Thursday's episode doing locks. We'll give you our spread for this game, our prediction, scores, over-unders, and BetOnline.ag is the place to go. It's got a new updated website with interface, even more odds, props, and contests. BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. Daniel and I love it. I'm sure Zach loves it. Get over there right now. Use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. You'll receive 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. I know math is hard for a lot of us, but again, whatever you put in, half that, and then put it on top, and that's what you get to bet with. Football, basketball, boxing, right at your fingertips. It's the fastest, easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline.ag, promo code locked on. What are the questions you got for Zach, Daniel?
Well, I want to shift to the Auburn defense and talk about, because I think that side of the ball is the Georgia defense, the way that they match up against this Auburn offense is obviously going to be, I think, maybe a bigger story, the way the Auburn defense matches up against the Georgia offense. So let me just ask you this question, Zach, and I'll leave it as open-ended for you as I can. If Auburn defense is going to succeed on Saturday, and you can define that however you want, what needs to happen for Auburn defense to have a successful day on Saturday? The pass rush. They need to stop the run. They need to defend the back end. They need to XYZ. What's the thing that needs to happen?
So my answer for both sides of the ball of what Auburn needs to do against Georgia is the trenches. What's that look like? Because I think that is a drastic mismatch with what Georgia's offensive line versus Auburn's defensive line, and then vice versa. Georgia's offensive line, y'all got what I'm saying. So I just think Georgia is just going to physically outmatch Auburn in the trenches. And so what does that look like as far as Auburn attempting to stop the run? Because I think that's what their game plan is going to be. And Auburn's got some really good linebackers, and I expect big games out of them. Owen Papo, is he going to be able to come back and play? That's going to be a huge deal for Auburn stopping the run. But Zakoby McClain's going to be good, but he can't do it by himself. Chandler Wooten's been good, but he can't do it by himself. So Auburn's going to have to get some kind of push. And you mentioned pass rush, but I'm more concerned with them stopping the run and not getting blown off the football. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, that's, it's really interesting. The offensive line last week against Arkansas, a good team. No one should downplay them. I know they got rolled, but that's still a good team. And the offensive line, we commented, was the most impressive part of the game. We knew we had a couple of receivers that can catch, and if JT's ready to go, Monk and the passing offense is great. But man, the offensive line showed out in incredible ways last week against Arkansas's defense. Now, they were conservative. I don't know if Auburn's going to try to attack more or play back. Arkansas definitely played back, and so maybe that gave us the push required. But the offensive line showed out, and it only looks like it's getting better as they get more comfortable. Cedric Van Pran, our center, new guy into the rotation. We got Jamari over at left tackle. He should be guard, but transition out. So it's a lot of beef. It's a lot of strength, and man, they're starting to feel their oats. So I know Auburn has a defensive lineman that might be missing this game as well. Didn't travel to Penn State. Is that correct? I thought I read a report somewhere like that. I just wonder about the depth of that push on the defensive line, if they're going to be able to stand up. I think you're right. That's going to be key for Auburn.
Yeah, and the guy you're talking about is TD Moultrie. Yeah, his future with the team may be up in question. We don't really know all the details yet, but he keeps getting asked about, and everyone's like, yeah, we don't know. It's essentially what they're saying.
Wow.
So we'll see. And he normally does a weekly interview with an NIL deal with one of the Auburn sites, and he didn't do it this week. So take that for what it's worth. So one of the folks that commented on Locked on Auburn, one of the videos from earlier the week, guys, talked about stopping Georgia's tight ends. Tell me a little bit about Georgia's tight end position and what you guys like to do with them.
I'm going to limit us to no more than 30 minutes on this subject, Daniel, because you and I
don't tell me how to live my life, Clint. I'll do what I want. All right. He asked about the tight ends. He probably wants to know. Let me pull out this chart that I have conveniently behind me. No, Brock Bowers, true freshman tight end, has been a revelation for Georgia this year. He has been the number one target. Everybody knows George Pickens is out. Auburn fans, I think, know who George Pickens is. It's hard to say.
Why are we doing this?
It's hard to say who knows who anybody is. So I was just clarifying. George Pickens is a wide receiver. He is from the state of Alabama, I believe, or at least has spent some time there. It's hard to say.
The only receiver in this game that I care about is Demetrius Robertson.
Robertson. Again, let's get back to Demetrius. Well, Brock Bowers is like the Demetrius Robertson for Georgia, except that he's the first target that we throw the ball to, and he is often very productive for the offense. Now, this last week against Arkansas, nobody caught the ball because nobody threw the ball, and so it was tough to catch the ball. We did target Brock Bowers a couple times, a couple really bad throws by Stetson Bennett, but yeah, I know.
Bad throw by Stetson Bennett.
It's hard to say. It's yeah. So Brock Bowers.
Rank that name. Stetson Bennett the fourth. Scale of 1 to 10.
Scale of 1 to 10. 1 being John Smith and 10 being Tank Bigsby. I think Stetson Bennett the fourth is probably like a 9.25. I don't know, somewhere. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of like a. I'm not talking about like I would want it for myself. But I'm saying in terms of iconic names, just like for a Georgia fraternity guy, like this is Stetson Bennett the fourth.
I'll tell you right now, if he's not playing football, that collar is up to here. The truly is in his hand. That's how legendary that name is.
It's unbelievable.
Fourth or Smoke Monday?
Ooh.
Cooler name. Smoke Monday, better name Stetson Bennett the fourth.
Got it.
So yeah.
All right.
So Brock Bowers, I would say he's the number one weapon. Obviously, you've got wide receivers like Jermaine Burton. I mean, the national narrative about Georgia is that we don't have any receivers because George Pickens is hurt, and that because Demetrius Robertson left, and so Arik Gilbert never played for us, and so that was a loss apparently that he left the team, even though he was never on the team. So that's been the narrative. Neither of us buy into that narrative. There's really talented weapons in the wide receiver room, but the tight end room with Brock Bowers, and now you've got Darnell Washington, who's a freak of nature. You know, he's just a massive human being who can run and catch the ball. He played last week against Arkansas, I think kind of getting back into the flow of things. He helps tremendously in the run game, and Georgia loves to use multiple tight ends, and the offensive line gets a lot of credit for what happened last week, but I think the blocking on the edge, the blocking on the perimeter, blocking with guys like Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington helped a ton. And so he's expected to be back and go against Auburn. That would be huge if he gets targets in the passing game, which I expect Georgia might need to throw the ball a little bit. Right. Again, they're not going to have the same game plan that they had against Arkansas. So you're going to see the tight ends involved because Todd Monken likes to use them. And honestly, it's not just even that. It's that they're two of the more talented weapons. And so this Georgia offense doesn't care. They're trying to get the ball to the weapons, and the weapons this year happen to play tight end.
Yeah. And I think Auburn fans are so interested in that because Auburn against Penn State just didn't want to cover the tight end, which is interesting. Yeah. Bold move.
It's a bold strategy. We'll see how it pays out for him.
It didn't pay off in previous stints, so we'll see. Now, all joking aside, though, it's I think it's like an assignment issue. It's never really been a talent issue, which is kind of the glass half full way of looking at it. It's just, they aren't covering this guy. Communication got mixed up somewhere. So that'll be something. I think that was part of the growing pains of just getting a new defensive scheme. You know, I mentioned Derek Mason earlier in the conversation. So That seems to be better against LSU. There's only been a few plays where like Auburn actually just got beat on a play as far as talent goes on the back end. So we'll see. We'll see if that translates to Georgia on Saturday.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see if Owen can't go. Y'all going to need somebody who is size, speed, combo worthy to go up against Brock and Big O Darnell. And so you put a DB on him, bring down a safety, maybe a Smoke Monday or somebody like that. Size-wise,
that's Kentucky.
I'm talking size. I'm talking size-wise.
Yeah,
we referenced him before, Daniel. Get off my lawn. Bringing it back full circle, okay? But somebody size-wise like that needs to go ahead and do that. So if Auburn doesn't have that guy going for it, and we get into 2 tight end sets, and knowing that Todd Monken's seen that in Penn State, I think you might see an early, healthy dose of that against Auburn on Saturday.
And you got to think that Auburn realizes that's coming. I mean, that's what Georgia did so well. So,
watch any tape for Georgia this year, and that's what you're going to see.
Yeah. So what do they do to change all that? You know, I think they're going to go in trying to stop the run and limit the tight ends in the passing game. Then look, Auburn's got a really good corner outside of Roger McCreary. I think he's fantastic. I've gone on other Locked On shows doing crossover saying I think he's one of the most underrated players in all of college football. I think he's really, really special. The drop-off, though, on the other side from him to Nehemiah Pritchett, I think is pretty big. And I don't think Pritchett's a bad corner by any stretch of the imagination, but Roger McCreary is just so good. But
how do they use him? Do they move him around? Do they typically move him around?
No, they don't. And I wish they would have moved him around more. Like Jahan Dotson with Penn State ate Auburn alive, but not when McCreary was covering him. It was always when they moved him around the formation to get him away from Roger. So I'm curious to see what they do with that. Like who would be Georgia's number 1 outside receiver? Like who do you think McCreary would match up best against?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be Jermaine Burton, number 7. He's a big time weapon, and he's had big time games for Georgia. He's a deep threat, and so he's the guy of everyone on the offense. He's the guy that to top off and really go home run ball. But he can also possession receiver on the sidelines and pick up a third down and things like that. But A.D. Mitchell, a true freshman, really came on in the spring game, and number 5, he's playing lights out for Georgia this year, and so I think he's a second option. Kyrus Jackson's been there forever, very reliable, not super flashy, but a very reliable option in the pass catching. But Brock Bowers not your typical tight end. Like he's not running 6-yard hitches, across the middle. Like he is a stretch of the defense type of guy, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Auburn does try to match up with him with somebody who's got more defensive back skills, because I think if you put a linebacker anywhere near Brock Bowers, it's a big problem, a big time problem for a defense.
Sure.
Yep. Absolutely. Hey, we're going to come back after this and ask some more questions and maybe field some more from Zach. But first, want to let you know about Prize Picks. Prize Picks right now is fantasy made easy. Have you heard about them? If not, Daniel, I've been talking about them for a long time. We love them. It's a leader in college sports daily fantasy. Prize Picks offers more college props than anyone in the world. And by the way, we can think of a lot. All of your users that deposit right now, promo code Locked On, get 100% instant deposit match up to $100. You pick 2 to 5 players in the over-under on their projections. You could win up to 10 times on any entry. Allows mixed sport entries as well as award-winning app as well as on their website, prizepicks.com. Right now, head over there, prizepicks.com. Use promo code Locked On. Go to the App Store and download the app today.
Also want to tell you about Built Bar, which Zach, Clint, and I have been talking about since we were born. Basically, it is the best tasting. There it is, a little visual aid. If you're watching on YouTube, that's a little, Zach's about to eat that. I can't believe you've had that thing sitting in front of you this entire time and haven't eaten it yet. Zach,
it's been hard.
Yeah.
It's been hard.
Unbelievable. What a discipline this man possesses. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on planet Earth. And if you don't believe us, then you should just try one. They come in a wide variety of delicious flavors. There's chocolate flavors, fruit flavors, caramel flavors, birthday cake flavors. All you have to do is go to BuiltBar.com, enter the promo code LOCKEDON15, and you're going to get 15% off your first order. Clint, I think he's trying to throw that Built Bar out the second floor brownstone window.
Out the brownstone, just right up there.
Put it right up the brownstone window. BuiltBar.com, promo code LOCKEDON15. You're going to get 15% off Your first order, you get a box of one flavor. You get a variety pack of multiple flavors. They're high in protein, high in fiber, low in sugar. They're keto approved. They're good for whatever diet you are on. And we guarantee you they're the best tasting protein bar that you have ever had. Go to BuiltBar.com, enter the promo code LOCKEDON15, and enjoy yours today.
I'm really curious. Here's my question. Georgia's defense is unmatched in all the land. We know Bo's got scramble ability. He's got them legs. He's looking like he can make some reads, some receivers, whatnot. But you said the trenches.
Demetrius Robertson, I believe.
That was going to be
probably the biggest name.
How are they going to score Demetrius Robertson? Yeah.
By the way, if you're drinking at home with D-Rob, name drop, you are under the table right now.
We apologize. We should have warned you at the beginning.
Yep.
This offensive line for Auburn, how the heck is it going to try to match up against Georgia's attacking front seven, who's bringing blitzes and stunts, and then when they go man up, just one-on-one, they're winning those one-on-ones. What's Auburn? How quick? I don't mean to
be disrespectful. Far be it from me to ever be disrespectful. But when you turn on the tape, they just, from an untrained eye, and granted, not a guru or an insider, they look really bad. The Auburn offensive line. Are they really bad, or are they okay?
I don't think they're really bad. I think they're fine. I think they're a fine SEC offensive line, which is maybe better than what we thought they would be going into the season. When you look at what it's virtually the same offensive line that started against Georgia last year. There's not a whole lot of moving around that happened. Okay. It's a little different, but for the most part, it's the same. And the big thing that happened again in that game last year was they just didn't block some dudes. And obviously they got beat on the edges a ton too, but then Bo did this stuff where you're just kind of running around. It was like Tank Bigsby's first relevant game. So there was a lot of stuff that could go wrong in that situation. And it did. It pretty much all went wrong in that situation a year ago. So what's the biggest difference with this offensive line now is I think you're seeing a better job of communication along the offensive front. I think you're seeing them be a little bit better in the pass protection realm. The run blocking has been pretty inconsistent. But I just think they're going to have a hard time getting a push, especially on the inside with your guards and your centers. And I don't know. I think it's going to be an issue. I think it's going to be an issue for the Tigers. So what do you do to game plan against that? I think Auburn's done fine running to the outside. I think they've done a good job in recent weeks getting their running backs involved in the passing game. Sean Shivers, I think he was targeted 6 times, which is something that we haven't really seen before, but I think he's really, really good in that role. And I also think it kind of forces a mismatch in Auburn's favor. One of the few situations where I think they can kind of construct a mismatch when they have the ball against Georgia. So I expect to see a lot of that, and whip out the secret weapon, Demetrius Robertson.
That's right. On an end around, I assume.
He scored an end around this season, so I don't know why he couldn't again.
Look, this much I know. Auburn doing end around, and Auburn yelling at me for my lack of memorabilia. These are the two things I know in life.
Don't do that to them. Gus Malzahn has left. The long dark season is over. We are not running gimmick high school formations anymore. Auburn they're trying to be real.
All right, so obviously Georgia's a big favorite in this game, despite Auburn being the home team. What's the biggest concern from the Georgia perspective going into Saturday's game?
Clint?
Demetrius Robertson?
It's
Daniel?
Look, I told you before the call, Zach, that you're never going to find an honest Georgia fan that says we're just going to walk into Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn, Alabama, and we're just going to walk out. Jordan, I'm sorry, what was it again, Zach?
Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Well, Thank you. Thank you, Clint. Thank you. Clint tries to correct me every time. I mean,
Clint knows nothing. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Spelling is hard.
The rest of us,
it's okay.
The rest of us in America know how to spell. But continue.
Listen, the rest of us in America, it's a deep South Soulless rivalry, Clint. The rest of us in America have nothing to say here. That's nothing. Okay. That's not. Well, we're not listening. More. All right, Georgia. No Georgia fan is going to tell you that you just roll into Auburn and you roll out with a victory, no problem. Not a concern in the world. It's a weird place to play. Weird things happen, and so it's not real, but like weird juju, I think, is what Georgia fans are most concerned with.
Why do you say it's not real?
Well, weird juju is not real.
I think it's pretty real.
No, I think sometimes balls just bounce off people's helmets and other people catch them and they run them into the end zone. Like that's real.
Then they leave the school and then come be a really good player at the school that they happen to do.
That's really good player. That's what we're going with now. We're really going with really good player.
Really good college safety. Absolutely.
Okay.
Who threw that pass, by the way?
Was it
former Georgia guy, right?
Yeah, I guess.
People always leave y'all to come to us. It's never the other way around. That's weird, right? Even KD Johnson, we haven't even brought him up yet. He's going to be great this year.
KD Johnson. Yeah, we were supposed to host a crossover episode in basketball season, but then a hapless Tom Crean team beat you in basketball last year. Do you remember that? Was that real life? Was that real life? How did that happen? All right, Tom Crean got his second SEC win as coach against top-ranked Auburn team. Okay, I don't know. I don't know why players leave schools. I don't know why players' names are Big Cat. I don't know a lot of things about college football. But what I know is that Georgia is better in every phase of the game than Auburn. And so I think most Georgia fans, and put it in the comments on Locked On Auburn, Georgia fans, what you're concerned about. But I think most Georgia fans will tell you they're not concerned about anything. It's nothing. That's going to be the overwhelming comment. It's nothing.
100%. Now, in 17, the just absolute – I have PTSD from Jordan-Hare Stadium from that game.
Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Yes, from Jordan-Hare Stadium. I have PTSD from that.
Thank you, sir.
Because that was one of the first years coming into fandom that I really, really got involved. Team was good. Team was going great. And then all of a sudden walked into a buzzsaw of that stadium. That team for Auburn did not beat us. That stadium beat us, I'm convinced. So when we say bad juju, that's what I'm saying. So, but however, I think just again, from a logical fan's perspective, which we don't have, that's never there.
No such thing.
No comment section on side is a logical fan.
No. But if I were really quickly to say that, nothing scares me about Auburn against this Georgia team at all. There are a couple things that I know will hit. Talking to you about pass game, I believe Brian Harsons will dial up something to get some outside shots going, and that'll happen 2-3 times.
Who do you think it'll be to, you think?
Oh, gosh. Now, to that, I don't know. I can't think of anybody that's going to be able to catch a ball.
Probably Jake Fromm's little brother, I would guess.
Right.
If I had to guess who's going to catch the deep ball, it would probably be Jake Fromm's. I mean, most of the routes I've seen when Auburn throws the ball deep down the field take about 48 seconds to develop because Bo Nix is just running.
Do you think he gets paid his NIL deal by how many steps he takes on the football field? Is that what happens?
Yes. He turns in the Fitbit.
Sweet tea calories. You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot. There's a lot.
And look, and I'll kind of turn the question back to you, Zach, because I think that was kind of the final point that I have on this game is like this game, and you know it because you've been covering it for years, and you know this rivalry. I know this rivalry. I grew up in it. It gets its reputation on how close it is, right? These teams are close in proximity to each other. The overall series is close. The total points, they're going to put up some kind of graphic. You can just bet your life that they're going to put up this graphic about the total points separating the two teams. Yep. And it's this, and it's this, and it's this.
Sure.
But you look at the recent series history, this game's not close. 9 of the last 12 have been decided by double digits. And 4 of the last 5 have been decided by 17 points or more. Right. 4 of the last 5 in this series. So a big win for either side would fit the recent history of this rivalry. And so I'll ask you, what is a more likely outcome? A big win, like a double-digit win for one side, or a close game?
Oh, a big win by one side. Yeah. For sure, because I think Georgia's going to win by a good bit. So, yeah.
Is there hope that the game could be close from an Auburn perspective? And is it based on anything other than Jordan-Hare magic?
I think the run defense can keep them in there for a bit. I just think over time, the defense is just going to wear down. That is my. I bet it's a 1-score game at the half, and then somewhere late third quarter, I think it starts to kind of get out of hand. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
That seems totally fair. I was thinking the same thing because Georgia usually the last couple of games have gotten out to this big lead in the first quarter and then basically hit cruise control.
Huge start, yes,
and just said no. I don't think that's going to be the case this game. I think we see more conservative Kirby on the beginning opening drives, feeling each other out on the road. Maybe JT's not able to go. Maybe it's Stetson again, and we're going to have to rely.
JT's not able to. JT's not going to play.
I know that. You know that. Zach knows that. But there are fans out there.
Can we say his full name, please? Stetson Bennett the fourth. Thank you.
Stetson Bennett the fourth.
1-0 versus Auburn in his career. 1-0 as a starting quarterback against Auburn.
I was so confident in that game too.
All listen. We all listen to the podcast. I thought about queuing up moments from last year's podcast. But we opted not to. Look,
totally just
thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Go subscribe to Locked On Auburn if you're a Bulldog fan. Come subscribe to Locked On Bulldogs if you're an Auburn fan. Maybe we'll get back together this basketball season. Who knows? But certainly, maybe we'll meet again in the SEC championship game.
Totally.
Yeah. Maybe D-Rob will just rally the troops and look, let's get it.
Sometimes we say his name. Is that what's happening down there?
Yeah, that's what's happening down here.
We've only said it
only 6 times.
I feel like you missed a few there.
Well, no,
you have failed your listeners. You failed your listeners.
We referenced him many, many times, but the full name was not used all but 6.
Got it.
All right. Well, that is Zach, Clint, and I. We are thanks for joining us. Subscribe, leave us a comment, and we'll both be back tomorrow with more content. Locked On Auburn, Locked On Bulldogs here on the Locked On Podcast Network. See ya.